A Roman legionary stands on a stone parapet overlooking the dust and heat of 1st century Jerusalem. He leans his weight against an iron-tipped spear. Both people just walk away into separate rooms. We think it is the hour your phone stops ringing. We think it is the brief window where, with a dull, rhythmic thud, he is in a winepress. A winepress is a narrow pit carved directly into the solid rock, designed to crush grapes underfoot. You do not thresh wheat in a pit. You thresh wheat on a high, exposed threshing floor where the evening wind can catch the cracked chaff and blow it away, leaving the heavy golden grain to fall to the earth. To swing a flail inside a cramped, breathless pit of stone means only one thing. He is absolutely terrified. The man is Gideon, and the book of Judges tells us he is hiding from the Midianites. The Midianites are a nomadic empire that sweeps across the Israelite borders every single harvest season like a plague of locusts, stripping the valleys bare. They take the sheep, they take the ox, they take the harvest. Israel's ledger is completely empty. They are entirely bankrupt, living in mountain caves, starving in the dirt. An angelic messenger suddenly appears in the dust of the winepress. The messenger looks at this terrified, sweating man hiding in a hole, in the ground, and addresses him with an impossible title, a mighty man of valor. Gideon immediately points to the gaping hole in their reality. He points to the stolen wealth, the broken covenant, the oppressive, suffocating fear. If God is with us, he argues, why is the ledger completely empty? The messenger does not offer a theological explanation to soothe his mind. He issues a command to go and tear down the altars of the false gods. The anxiety in your chest drops from a roar to a manageable, quiet hum. We treat peace like a ceasefire, but a ceasefire just means to drive out the invaders, to restore the broken structure of the nation. And before Gideon ever lifts a sword, before a single Midianite is driven from the land, before the stolen livestock is ever returned, Gideon builds an altar out of rough rock right there in the dirt. He names it Yahweh Shalom. The Lord is peace. This makes absolutely no sense if peace means a quiet, conflict-free life. Gideon is standing on the precipice of a brutal, terrifying military campaign. The Midianites are still camped in the valley. The grain is still stolen. The blood has not yet been spilled. But Gideon understands the ancient Hebrew root of the word. The altar is not a monument to a ceasefire. It is the declaration of a structural rebuild. Gideon names the altar Shalom because the architect has finally arrived in the ruins to put the shattered pieces back together. Peace is not the absence of the Midianite army. Peace is the presence of the God who has come to personally oversee the restitution of a broken world. But the Midianites were a physical army, stealing physical grain. What does that ancient restitution look like when the debt is entirely invisible? And the broken structure is the modern world itself? We do not have Midianites stealing our wheat. We have a different kind of extraction. We live in a world defined by the deficit. We build our lives on fractured foundations. And we simply normalize the breakage. Look at the structures around you, have run out of bullets. It does not mean the burnt buildings have been rebuilt. It does not mean the stolen land has been returned. We design economies that demand perpetual exhaustion. We stare into glowing screens that harvest our attention. We swipe plastic cards to buy things we do not need, ignoring the invisible labor that stitched the fabric. We step over the man sleeping on the cold concrete grate, avoiding his eyes. And we pretend the social fabric is completely intact every single day. Stones are violently pulled from the wall. A marriage splinters. A reputation is ruined. A lie is spoken. A trust is betrayed. The ledger bleeds. And just like the ancient Roman Empire, we try to manufacture a ceasefire. We download meditation apps to silence our racing hearts. We swallow medication to numb the constant exhaustion. We retreat into quiet suburban neighborhoods, roll up the tinted car windows, and slide the heavy steel deadbolts into place. We assume the quiet room is safe. But isolation is not peace. It is a well-decorated prison. You can put noise-canceling headphones on a sinking ship, but the freezing water is still rising. The structure of reality is still fundamentally compromised. The debt is still compounding in the dark, and the universe still demands a shalom. A quiet room is not a peaceful room if the silence is only there because everyone is too afraid to speak. It demands physical restitution. The missing pieces must be returned. The broken stones must be hoisted back into the wall. The stolen livelihood must be repaid fivefold. But humanity is completely bankrupt. We cannot pay the debt because we are the ones who stole the oxen. We are the ones who broke the covenant. We are the ones who shattered the world. We are all standing in our own cramped wine presses, sweating in the dust, hiding from the absolute consequences of our own nature. If Shalom requires the ledger to be perfectly zeroed out, we are entirely without hope. Unless the architect of the wall decides to pay the debt himself. Unless someone is willing to step out of eternity, walk directly into the ruins of our fractured world, and cover the staggering cost of restitution. To see how the debt is finally settled, you have to leave the modern world and walk up a rocky hill outside the gates of Jerusalem. A heavy iron spike is driven through living flesh and into rough cedar. The metallic crack of the hammer echoes off the surrounding limestone quarry. It is midday, but the sky above Jerusalem turns the color of bruised iron. The man on the middle cross is suffocating. The air is thick, smelling of kicked-up dust, sweat, and the sharp, copper tang of blood. Execution by Roman crucifixion is not a death by bleeding. If you look closer at the ancient Hebrew vocabulary, at the soil where these concepts actually grew, at the bizarre and highly specific places this word shows, it is a death by exhaustion. To take a single breath, the victim must press his flayed back against the splintered wood, pushing his full body weight up against the iron nails in his feet just to expand his lungs. When his legs finally fail, his chest collapses, and he suffocates in the suffocating dark. The Roman soldiers standing guard at the base of the wood think they are maintaining the Pax Romana. They think they are enforcing the peace of the empire by violently silencing a rebel. But Jesus of Nazareth is not just enduring an execution. He is standing in the center of the cosmic ledger. Remember the ancient law of the pasture. When the world is fractured, when the trust is broken, when the theft is committed, the universe does not ask for a quiet ceasefire. The structure requires a physical restitution. The ledger demands a shalom. The gaping hole in the fabric of creation must be filled, and the cost of replacing the heavy stones that humanity tore down is entirely beyond our ability to pay. We are completely bankrupt, so the architect steps into the ruins. He takes the crushing weight of the entire human deficit upon his own shoulders. Every shattered vow, every violent theft, every quiet betrayal in the dark, every single ounce of debt compounding across human history. Up in ancient property law, you start to see something the modern world completely misses. The biblical concept of peace is not a retreat from reality, is systematically transferred to his account. He feels the absolute weight of a broken universe collapsing onto his chest. The cross is not a tragic martyrdom. It is a structural repair. He is paying the 5 oxen. He is restoring the missing pieces. He is absorbing the fatal consequences of our extraction so that the ledger of justice can finally read 0. The blood soaking into the dirt beneath the wood is not a symbol of human cruelty. It is the infinite currency of divine restitution. And when the transaction is completely finished, when the debt is fully absorbed, he pushes up against the iron one final time, draws a breath into his lungs, and lets it go. He exhales. And the heavy, woven veil in the temple, the physical barrier between the holy presence of God and the bankrupt world of humanity, violently tears in two from top to bottom. The shalom is made. Wholeness is purchased. But the restitution paid on that rocky hill was never meant to stay in the first century. It was meant to reach across time, break through the quiet desperation of your own mind, and find you exactly where you are sitting today. A Roman legionary stood guard over a silent, suffocated city and called it peace. A thief stole a heavy ox in the dead of night. Shalom is not the absence of tension. It is the restoration of wholeness. It is not a blank canvas. And the ancient law demanded he restore the broken structure. A nation was violently dragged into a foreign exile, and God promised to return their missing pieces. A terrified farmer hid from his enemies in a stone winepress, and the architect arrived to zero out the ledger. A modern world lies awake, trying to buy a ceasefire with its own conscience, and the invisible debt only continues to compound in the dark. A heavy iron spike was driven through living flesh, and the infinite cost of human extraction was completely absorbed. A dying man exhaled his final, agonizing breath on a rocky hill, and the barrier between a bankrupt humanity and a holy God violently tore in two. One shattered world. One absolute restitution. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the heavy, breathing oxen. The thief in the ancient law could not just offer an apology. He had to walk to his own pasture, take the rough rope in his own hands, and feel the physical weight of restoring exactly what he broke. The ledger of reality required actual blood and bone to balance the scales. And when humanity fractured the world, when our own hands were completely empty and we had absolutely nothing left to give, God did not just offer us a spiritual apology from a distance. He walked into the ruins, took the heavy wood on his own back. It is a mosaic where every single shattered piece of glass has been hunted down, picked up, and fused back into its rightful place, and paid the physical cost with his own blood. If you are in a season where you are utterly exhausted from trying to manage a ceasefire with your own conscience, if the internal ledger is keeping you awake in the quiet, desperate hours of the night, stop trying to buy back the stolen grain. The restitution has already been made. Shalom has been accomplished. The architect is not asking you to manufacture your own tranquility, and he is not asking you to fix the broken wall by yourself. He is asking you to simply hand him the shattered pieces. And may the God who has never once been intimidated by your brokenness step into the dark ruins of your own personal ledger and put every single shattered piece of your life back exactly where it belongs. And to understand the staggering weight of what that actually costs, you have to look past the spiritualized, bumper sticker definitions of peace. You have to start in a place that seems entirely disconnected from inner tranquility. You have to start with a thief in the middle of the night. The air smells of baking unleavened bread, crushed olives, and distant wood smoke. Below him, the cobblestone street is completely silent. Nobody is shouting. We have trained ourselves to accept a fractured world. When a friendship shatters, we do not usually do the excruciating work of tearing up the floorboards and rebuilding the foundation of trust. We just manage the distance, carefully stepping around the empty chair at the dinner table, keeping the conversation strictly on the weather. When financial disaster strikes, we do not reset the system. We refinance the debt, pushing the heavy, suffocating weight of it 30 years down the road, so we can sleep tonight. We are a culture of symptom management. We numb the dull, throbbing ache of a severed nerve, but the nerve remains severed. We put a temporary patch over the leak in the roof, but the wood underneath is still rotting away in the damp dark. We sweep the shattered porcelain vase under a rug so nobody steps on the sharp edges, and then we sit back in the quiet room and tell ourselves that everything is fine. We call this management peace. But the ancient Hebrew mind did not view reality as a series of isolated events that could simply be ignored or smoothed over with a quiet afternoon. They understood the universe as a vast, interconnected tapestry, an intricate web of relationships between God, humanity, and the dirt beneath their feet. Nobody is drawing a sword. The latest rebellion has been brutally crushed. The dissidents have been nailed to rough timber just outside the city walls. To the biblical authors, everything was supposed to fit together, like carefully cut limestone blocks in a massive fortress wall, when every block rests flush against its neighbor, bearing the weight evenly. The wall is strong enough to withstand a siege, but when a stone is forcibly removed, the entire structure begins to lean. The pressure shifts. The surrounding stones start to crack under a physical burden they were never designed to carry. You cannot simply paint over the jagged cracks, sweep away the falling dust, and declare the building safe. A transgression is not just a broken rule. It is a broken structure. And you cannot repair a structural collapse with a ceasefire. If someone takes something from you, a literal deficit is created in the world. A gaping hole where a piece of your livelihood used to be. The ledger of reality is suddenly unbalanced, tipped heavily toward injustice. And no amount of inner tranquility or deep breathing exercises is going to put the stolen grain back in your stone storehouse. True peace requires the missing pieces to be returned. Peace is not the suppression of the deficit. It is the full payment of the debt, and the crows have already found them. The remaining population walks with their heads down, eyes fixed on the dirt, careful not to make sudden movements, and to see exactly how seriously the biblical text takes this ledger. You have to step out of the realm of abstract theology and walk straight into an ancient court of law. You have to look at what happens. When a man breaks into a pasture in the dead of night and steals a neighbor's ox, the moon dips behind a rocky ridge. The pasture is pitch black. A man slips through a gap in a low stone wall. He ties a coarse, scratching rope around the neck of his neighbor's ox. The heavy animal shifts its weight. It snorts in the cold night air. The man pulls the rope. He walks the beast into the shadows. By morning, the theft is discovered. The footprint is found in the wet mud. The thief is caught. He is dragged to the city gates. The elders take their seats in the dust. The judgment is not complicated. Read the first verse of Exodus, chapter 22. An apology is not enough. A handshake is not enough. A promise to do better next time does not plow the victim's field. An ox in the ancient world is not a pet. It is a tractor. It is a livelihood. It is the only physical barrier between a farming family and winter starvation. When the ox vanishes, the dirt goes unplowed to the Roman Empire. This suffocating silence has a name. They call it the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For the ancient empire, peace was achieved through dominance. When the dirt is unplowed, the harvest fails. When the harvest fails, the children starve. The theft is an act of violence. The quiet field left behind is not at peace. It is bleeding. So the law demands a brutal, physical correction. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he shall repay 5 oxen for an ox, and 4 sheep for a sheep, 5 for 1. The thief must walk to his own pasture. He must look at his own flock. He must sever his own wealth. He must lead 5 heavy, breathing animals through the narrow dirt street. He must feel the sweat on his neck. In the midday sun, he must place those rough ropes into the calloused hands of the man he robbed. The 5 oxen are not a fine, paid to a king. They are a structural repair made to a neighbor. The gaping hole in the fabric of the community is filled. The ledger is mathematically balanced. The damage is not just acknowledged, it is actively, physically undone. In English, your Bible probably says, "The thief shall make full restitution." But the original Hebrew text uses a specific verb for this transaction, a word that changes the entire landscape of this conversation. And when you trace the etymology of that single verb, the spiritualized illusion of a peaceful ceasefire shatters completely. You conquer a province. You extract their wealth. You break their will to resist. And when they are finally too exhausted and terrified to fight back, look at the original Hebrew text of Exodus chapter 22. When the law demands that the thief make restitution or repay the stolen livestock, the English translation obscures a profound linguistic connection. The word used for repayment is the Hebrew verb shalom. It is the root verb for a noun you have heard 1,000 times. The noun is shalom, peace. To the ancient Hebrew mind, the verb shalom literally means to make something whole, to complete a transaction, to pay a debt so thoroughly that the ledger is zeroed out. The verb implies action, physical cost, and total restoration. If something about this ancient approach to justice is stirring up questions you have never considered, you are exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe. Because every week, we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So the thief pays the debt. The ledger is balanced. And shalom is achieved. That root meaning changes everything about how you read. The most famous promises in Scripture. Consider Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. You can find this verse cross-stitched on pillows and printed on coffee mugs in almost every Christian home in the West. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. You declare that you have brought them peace. It was peace by the sword, peace by suppression. Most people today read the Bible and assume peace, plans for peace and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. The word translated as peace, there is shalom. But look at the historical context. Jeremiah is writing a letter to a group of terrified Israelites who have just been violently exiled to Babylon. Their homes have been burned to the ground. Their temple has been reduced to smoking rubble. They are captives in a foreign empire, surrounded by a culture that despises them. They do not need a ceasefire, because they have already lost the war. They need a structural reset. When God promises them shalom in the middle of a pagan empire, He is not offering them a calm state of mind to help them endure their captivity. He is promising to rebuild the ruined walls, to restore the broken covenant, to bring the exiles home. Shalom is not a passive feeling of tranquility. It is the aggressive, costly act of putting a shattered world back together. But a terrifying problem emerges when you move this concept from the realm of stolen livestock to the realm of human nature. What happens when the debt cannot be paid with 5 oxen? What happens when the broken thing is not a neighbor's pasture, but the human soul? You know exactly what this ledger feels like. You feel it when you lie awake at 2 in the morning. The house is entirely quiet. Means almost the exact same thing, just on a more personal level. We think peace is simply the absence of conflict. We assume peace is what? The room is completely dark. You hear the low, mechanical hum of the air conditioner, and your mind begins to run the numbers. You replay a conversation from 5 years ago. You remember the exact words that slipped out of your mouth. You remember the sharp, stinging syllables. You remember the look on their face. You remember the relationship that splintered on the kitchen floor and never grew back. You cannot buy 5 oxen to fix that. You feel the ledger when you look at your own history. You see the compromises. You see the small, quiet betrayals of your own integrity. You know the things you have taken that did not belong to you. You know the trust you have fractured. You know the innocence you have lost. You feel the physical weight of it sitting right behind your ribs, making it hard to take a full breath. We all carry a ledger inside our own chest. It is heavy. It is precise. It is absolutely unforgiving. When most people say they want peace, this is what they are actually trying to manage. They are desperately trying to silence the accounting department in their own minds. They want the internal shouting to stop. They want the anxiety to drop its weapons. So we try to negotiate with the ledger. We try to tip the cosmic scales back in our favor. We write a check to a charity. We volunteer on a weekend. Happens when the literal or metaphorical guns finally stop firing. We think it is the moment the bitter argument in the kitchen burns itself out, and we try to be kinder to a stranger. We make rigid, frantic promises in the dark that we will be better tomorrow, that we will try harder, that we will finally break the cycle. We try to buy a ceasefire with our own conscience, but the ledger does not care about your intentions. The ledger only cares about what is missing. The internal fracture is not a feeling. It is a structural reality. The peace you are looking for is not a breathing technique. It is a restitution. True shalom requires someone to pay the absolute cost of making the broken thing whole again. Every shattered piece of glass must be found. Every stolen ounce of dignity must be returned. Every unpaid invoice must be settled in full, with physical weight. But a terrifying reality sets in when you stare at the math. What happens when the thief is completely bankrupt? Who pays the debt when you are the one who broke the world? And your pockets are completely empty? To answer that, you have to look at one of the strangest scenes in the Book of Judges. You have to leave the internal courtroom and step into a stone wine press. Dust hangs heavy in the stagnant summer air. A man swings a heavy wooden flail. bringing it down against a pile of harvested wheat.